What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Welcome. Happy Tuesday night. Hope everybody is doing well. I hope y'all are doing a little bit better than I am because I have a bad cold. So bear with me tonight. Anyways, welcome. Welcome to the show. For those of you who don't know, maybe this is your first time with us, my name is Mandy and I am your host. This is the Hickson Diaries, the live stream called The Next Show Will Be Better. Where we talk about my life as an American living here in the UK and all that jazz that goes with it. Tonight is, we're going to talk about where I've been, and I'm going to answer all of your burning questions. The live chat's open. Lots of you are active already. That's fantastic. I love it. But if you have a question that you haven't put in the comments or anything, or you have commentary on anything that we talk about, make sure you drop it in the chat. I'll respond to everybody's comments as we go. Also, if you could please hit that like button for me. And if you're so inclined and have the means, consider hitting the join button to become a member. This way you'll never miss anything that's happening with the Hickson Diaries. And also you'll help us raise money for the Royal British Legion, which is a very, very important charity that our channel is partners with. Sorry, I forgot the word for some reason. Anyways, however you support us, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, let's dive into it. Let's see if we can make this show better than the last. Who we got today? Who we got? Let's get that one out. Falco, good evening. Manny, good evening. Disco, good evening. Always good to see y'all. Glad everybody's doing well. Emojin, thanks so much for joining. Diane, thank you for joining as well. Manny! You're an idiot. Oh, I hope everyone is doing good. Roy Cousins, thank you for joining. Piper, thank you for joining. Oof, we got lots of people in the house tonight. So good to see all of you. Thank you. I actually do feel a lot better. D. Scott, yay. Oh, you're not late. You're like a minute late. You're fine. Don't worry about it. There's always like a 15-minute grace period, in my opinion, right? Just like your job. Anyways, I'm feeling better than I was this morning, to be honest. I was feeling really awful last night, and I was feeling really awful this morning, but I feel much better now. I got a lot of rest today. And I was on the fence as whether or not we were going to do the show today because I was feeling so crappy this morning, but I'm doing better. I may have to cut it a little bit short just to make sure I get good rest for tomorrow, but otherwise, yeah, I'm glad I was able to do this. As always, don't forget to like and share the stream. Let everyone know we're live and let the algorithm knows that we are awesome and we do a great job. And also, if you get a chance, definitely check out our shop at hicksondiaries.com because, you know, we got a website now because we're a big deal now and everything, you know. Anyway, there's more stuff coming. I'm working on some other designs, but these are some basic ones. If you guys have any suggestions at all, just let me know, okay? Because definitely don't want to have merch out there that no one's gonna be interested in. Doesn't make any sense. Also, I've done some research on the pricing, but I feel like it might be a tad high. If you guys feel like it might be a tad high as well, let me know. Lorena, thank you for joining. Excuse me again. Anyway, any feedback you guys have on anything, you guys know, you can always let me know. I am always interested in knowing what everybody thinks. I'm just trying to breathe a little bit. Sorry. I'm going at my normal pace, my normal live stream pace, and it's not working with this cold. But anyways, thank you all again for being here. Favorite night of the week. All right, let's jump into this. Let's see where I've been. Do y'all know? Does anyone have a guess? No one really had a guess on the post, so let me just double check, but I don't think so. If you have a guess, throw it in the chat for me. Let me know what you think. Oh, Piper has a guess. She, as usual, I have no idea. That's her comment. Fair enough. Let's see. How's work? Piper asked how work is doing. Work is doing okay. It's only the the third week. And I'm learning a lot, but I am also learning that I absolutely am not happy about going back into the office at all. It's not really any reflection on this particular office or anybody in it. It's definitely a better environment than I was in previously, but it's just not something that I am enjoying, in all fairness. And work's a tad more complicated than I thought it was, but that I should have known, knowing what I'm getting into. But it is what it is at this point. It's definitely a better situation than I was in last time. So I'm not looking a gift horse in the mouth at this point. We'll just have to see how everything rolls over the next few months and all, and we'll go from there. Thank you for asking, though. Is that Arundel? I don't even know what Arundel is, so that's a no. What is Arundel, Manny? You'll have to school me on that one. Scott says, I think I'm sorry. Disco says, I think you've stumped us all. I was reading ahead. My bad. Can you give my wife a wee shout out, Lizzie? I love her. Absolutely. Scott's wife, Lizzie, shout out. He loves you to death. So obviously you're doing something well. Keep it up. Annie has another guess. Apart from Arundel Castle, will be Leeds Castle. No. This is actually a shot from the crypt at the Hastings Abbey. From I guess it's is it Hastings Abbey or the Abbey of Hastings? I don't know how you would say it. Arundel Castle. No, it's not Arundel Castle. It's not Leeds Castle. It is Abbey in Hastings. The Hastings Abbey. Abbey in Hastings. So we went to see the battlefield and the Abbey in Hastings, the 1066 battlefield. And it was really, really cool, in all honesty. To be fair, I've been to the Abbey before because we actually had a family wedding there, which was awesome. But we didn't really get to explore outside or anything like that. So this time we got to explore outside. The buildings are incredible. They were very Harry Potter-esque, to be fair. And I'm not really ever surprised how ornate and how much detail goes into all of these buildings now, because I'm kind of getting a little bit used to it, but I'm still overwhelmed and in awe of it, to be honest. It was really awesome. We learned about the Battle of 1066, the Battle of Hastings, with William the Conqueror, and King Harold. Is that right? I think that's right. It was really, really cool. Yes, Roy Cousins got it. Battle Abbey. In the grounds of the battle. It was really cool. I really enjoyed it. This is actually a piece of British history we actually learned in America, because it's so pertinent and important to like world history. But I had forgotten a lot of the details of it. But it was also, even if you learn this stuff, it's always really cool to see it in person as well. And the buildings are just stunning, right? It's just stunning. And we had a lot of fun. They had some gardens. They had a little like maze. They had a dairy and ice house, and where the monks stayed, the quarters and everything. It was really cool. It was really fun. I enjoyed it a lot. There's the one of the picture of one of the battlefields. It was interesting. They have like a monument to where King Harold actually fell. I think it's King Harold. It was fun. It was one of those things that was like most of the historical things in the UK. It was informative and interesting because I'm a history buff and I really enjoyed it. But also like the architecture and being able to walk around ruins and stuff. It's always fun for me. I love that stuff. I would do that every freaking day if I could. But I can't because I got to work. But it was fun for the whole family, to be honest. It was a very fascinating place, Manny, and I highly recommend it. It's on the English Heritage list as well. So we were members of the English Heritage Association. So we get to see a lot of that stuff for free. But I highly recommend it regardless. It was a lot of fun. And the town of Hastings is just really cool as well. I recommend it, Diane. You should go there if you get a chance, if you're in the area. It's really, really beautiful. I bet there's also, we didn't do this part, but you can walk around the edge of the battlefield as well. There's like a trail. We didn't do this part because the child didn't want to, so we skipped it. But so you can actually walk around all of the edge and everything. It was cool. I would imagine that like in the spring and summer that would be a really, really cool walk. People had their dogs and things like that. It was fun. And I think that part of it was free. I don't know for sure. But what I'll do is when I post this, I'll make sure that the link to the Abbey and Hastings Historical is in there so that you guys can check it out if you want to. All right, Scott, and I'm not sure what you're talking about there. I think you're talking to Disco, so I'm going to let you guys talk and let me know if that's something I'm supposed to respond to. Roy Cousins. Oh, sorry, excuse me. Roy Cousins says Battles is a few miles away from Hastings. I thought it was Battle fought of Senlac Ridge. Apparently, I think it was part of the battle. Like they charged the Abbey because that's where the king was. So I'm not sure. You're right. I'm not sure if it's the entire thing. But they did talk about there was a charge against the Abbey, excuse me. And that's what they were talking about. I was assuming that it was part of that whole 1066 like battle. I could be incorrect. I could have misunderstood it. She was freaked out to hear her name. Oh, sweet. I remember something similar happened to my partner, one of the podcasts that he listens to, and he supports the sports one, of course. Anyways, they gave him a shout out at one point, and he was really excited about that too. I was like, that was when we were in America, actually. So I guess it's cool. I mean, if someone gave me a shout out online, I probably would be, if some like a channel I supported or whatever, I'd probably be cool about it too. I might assume she supports us. Piper says it's weird and cool thinking about this happened 1,000 years ago. I love trying to imagine what life was like back then. It's funny that you say that, Piper. Well, the whole time we were walking around, my child was like, I would love to live in this time. And they were like, she was really, I don't know, into like the dress. And I don't know. I was like, are you sure? Because it's like no indoor plumbing. Women have no rights. You'll probably die in your 40s. Like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah. But it is interesting. I always agree with you that I'm always interested in like how people did stuff. Like I watched a couple of documentaries about like how women took care of their needs like back in the day. And remember my partner walking in on me once and being like, why are you watching this? I don't know. It's just interesting. Manny says, I've been to Hastings many times and briefly saw the Abbey. Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to see the Abbey, right? Because it's in the middle of everything. I recommend going in, though. It is really cool. The grounds are beautiful. And the view from the top, the viewpoint is amazing. Never been anywhere near there. Closest is probably Brighton. I have not been to Brighton yet. It's on our list for this summer, though, because we're told we should go in the summer. I think one of you all told us go in the summer because you get the full effect. It's been on our list for a year now. Y'all should go see the Abbey if you can. It's really cool. The Abbey was built quite a long time after the battle. Could be. It could be. It was very brutal time then. Yeah, I'm not sure I'd want to be a woman in the turn of the millennium. I'm with you on that one. Piper says, it's fascinating, but yeah, I would not like to be alive back then. We are very lucky right now compared to the past. Amen. In certain areas, anyway. We're lucky to be in Western developed countries. Diane says, I wonder if it has any ghosts due to the battle nearby. Maybe. We stood in the crypt. That was the first picture. This is actually the crypt that was dug up again. They knocked it down for some reason, and then they decided to leave it, like not rebuild over it or something like that. This is the ruins of the crypt. And I was like, not eerie. For me, it's not eerie because I don't believe in ghosts and stuff. But my daughter's a little bit like that. And she thought it was a little eerie. I just thought it was cool. Okay, so you guys got some questions? You got some questions for me? I think you do. Community tab. So let's get into your questions, y'all. And we'll go back to this one. All right. So if you have any questions and answers, it's going to just be a very low-key question and answer type thing. So whatever y'all want to chat about, throw it in there. So Emojin had a question. It said, where did you meet your husband? What is the story? And here's a curveball for you. If you were still in the USA now, would you two have been vulnerable to the attentions of the American immigration authorities? Some real horror stories coming out of the US at the moment of spouses being split up and deported. Wow, there's a lot in that one. All right, so the story of how I met my husband. So I actually met my husband 3 times in one night. We were during a 4th of July celebration in the town that I lived near. It was like an all-day celebration, and I had been there with some friends all day. We were playing volleyball, we were drinking, we were, having a good time. That town also has fireworks in the evening. So I had been there all day. I was a bit tipsy, and I'm sitting in the parking lot of one of the pubs that we were at to see the fireworks. And I hear my name called from behind from a friend that I was with. And they were like, "Oh, this is so and so. Oh, this is Mandy." And I was like, "Oh, hey, hi." And I like barely turned around and looked at them, right? I was trying to be nice and everything, but I was a little tipsy and I was looking at the fireworks. Anyways, so after the fireworks are over, we go back in the pub and we're drinking a little bit, and I get introduced again to this man. And I was like, "Oh, hi. Yeah, right. I'm sorry about before. I was just, distracted." And they're like, "Oh, no, it's cool. Don't worry about it." And then I can't remember how, but we were separated, and I went and was doing something, and they were actually mutual friends that he was with, that he had come to see, was trying to get him with someone else. So I think what happened was they kind of whisked him away to this person. Then fast forward about an hour or so, we go to the after party at my friend's house who had lived in town. I had been there with them, and we were making food because we were all hungry. And I remember I had a cup of noodles, and I had literally just taken a huge bite of my noodles, a huge forkful of noodles into my mouth. And he walks in the door, and I get introduced again. So I was like, "Oh, yeah, hey, how are you?" I got all these noodles hanging out of my mouth and stuff. And he just laughs or whatever and moves on as well. Then about, I don't know, a little while later, I'm starting to sober up a little bit because I have to drive home. But no one else really is sober except him. And they're playing poker, and I'm just kind of watching from afar. And he mentioned something like, "Oh, I don't really know what I'm doing. I don't really, I'm not played this or anything for a while." So I was like, "Oh, I'll come and help you out," right? Not thinking straight about it. And so I sit down next to him, and about 45 seconds into sitting next to him, I'm like, "You know what you're doing, don't you?" He's like, "Yeah, but they're all drunk. So, I'm just trying to have some fun." And I was like, "Sounds like fun. Let's do that." So we finished up the game, we finished up the party. We're both sober. And the rest is history, really, from there. It turned out that it turned out to be a very interesting night, and a night that I'll never forget. So I met a Brit who ended up being my life partner at an American Independence Festival. And that's the story. Funny caveat to that I just thought of, actually. I remember we didn't want the night to end between the two of us. So I invited him back to my place, and we were driving up to the house. And I was living with my family at the time, so it wasn't like that. But I was just like, "Come and you can sit and chill outside with me for a little bit," or something like that. But someone that I had met at the party, who I didn't know was interested in me, had actually followed me back to my parents' house. And I didn't notice it until I got to my parents' house. I get out of the car, and he's like, other guy gets out of the car, and he's like, "Hey, I just wanted to make sure you got home okay." And I was like, "What kind of weird stalker shit is this?" And I would have been really, really uneasy about it had my partner not been there too. But my partner had been there too, and he just kind of stayed back a little bit watching, and it gave me the confidence to be like, "Get the hell out of here. You weren't invited, blah, blah, blah." But I remember my partner coming up to me later and being like, "Did you invite him?" And I was like, "No, I'm not going to invite two people over at the same time. I'm not like that," right? Obnoxious. And then he was like, "I wasn't really sure what was going on there. I was like, he just followed me, and I was really uncomfortable about that. So I was really glad that you're here. So that was one of the first things that we did by ourselves, was like basically mitigate this weird stalker guy that was following me home. I knew that I could like count on him, because he was like, I was uneasy about it, but I didn't want to just leave, because, you know, he's like, you asked me to come over. Why would you ask me to come over? Anyways, but that made me feel like I could trust him at least. That was the first night we met, though. It was actually an interesting memory. I hadn't told that story in a while. If we were still in the U.S., would you two have been vulnerable to the attentions of the American immigration authorities? So you are right. There are lots of horror stories coming out right now. I think we probably would have been okay for a little while, because, and this isn't my view at all, but this seems to be the view of the current American government. My partner's white, so that holds a little bit of weight, I think. But part of the reason that we left is we did foresee some of these issues coming, or it could be a possibility, and we didn't want to get involved in any of that. And, you know, we left mainly because of our future and guns and healthcare and specifics like that. But there wasn't a positive vibe. That it didn't seem like the U.S. was going in a positive direction from our point of view, and that some of these things might come up for us. So, you know, it was definitely in the con realm. I think that if we'd stayed there long enough, probably would have affected us eventually. And that's why I pay very close attention to all immigration stuff that's going on here in the UK, to make sure that we don't end up in a similar situation. But fingers crossed, everything will stay the way it is. Oh, look, former President Bill Clinton's joined us. Thank you for joining us, sir. Piper says, I was told that some staff members saw ghosts when I worked previously, but you never saw anything. Do you believe in ghosts, Piper? I'm just curious. I don't want to call you out. I'm just curious. No judgment, though. Scott asks, sorry to be a pain, as you've probably told the story before, but what brought you to the UK, and has it been okay? So there's a bunch of things that brought us to UK over several years, as I kind of alluded to in the previous question, but mostly it was the gun situation that got really close to my child's school, and healthcare situation. There just really isn't, for average everyday people in America, it's really, really difficult to survive, let alone like plan for a future and stuff. And before we made the decision was right around the time COVID had ended. Biden had just taken over from the first Trump term, and there were some things that were happening. For example, like the overturn of Roe v. Wade, which is the abortion rights, that had previously been instilled at a federal level, and that had been overturned during that time frame. And there was a bunch of stuff like that happening on a regular basis. And it just, when you compound it to something very life altering like healthcare, and then you compound that with having 2 lockdowns for your child's school because of an active shooter in the area, you just start to feel really unsafe and really unsure. And we were just like, we didn't see an immediate positive outcome. And being that our child is at the age that they're at, we just wanted to try to set her up for success as much as we can. So that's pretty much why. There's a whole video about that, Scott. I'll leave it in the link below as well if you want to see it, that explains that in more detail. And there's even a reflection video as well a year later. But so far in the UK, it's been fine. We haven't had any real issues. Definitely as far as safety. I love the healthcare system here, obviously. And most of the issues that we've encountered have just been normal settling into a new place type of issues, me being homesick and dealing with the mental stress of leaving home and assimilating to a new culture and all that kind of stuff. So don't worry about it. It's not a pain. I don't mind talking about it. And we have new people that, see our videos all the time. So I'm happy to talk about it as much as possible. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The short of the answer is guns and healthcare. It's a lot more complicated than that because obviously you don't make a decision like that in the drop of a hat. But that's the basic gist of it. Safety and an actual real future rather than a future of indentured servitude and losing everything that we'd worked for our whole lives because one of us got sick. Or having that burden on our child because she's an only child. Lorena says you made your own fireworks. Could you imagine me with explosives? Obviously, I like British rule. Well, you know what? To be fair, Disco, it's done me a lot better than American rule in 2 years than American rule did in probably 5 to 10 years of my adult life. Just keeping it real. It's not my favorite thing to admit, but it's something I must admit. Scott asks, is there anything you really enjoyed in the UK? Oh, there's tons that I've enjoyed in the UK, actually. I love the fact that you have actual real history at your doorstep and that it's been fairly well preserved. You can walk down the same streets that people have been walking down for hundreds, if not thousands of years. That's fucking amazing. I love the fact that you have a little bit more of a community-based system, not just, as far as like public services and stuff, but just the whole vibe of the UK is about, minding your business and doing your thing, but not upsetting the herd and making sure that, everything is kind of at an even keel, a carry-on kind of attitude. But you also know how to enjoy yourselves. You know how to have fun and you know how to, just there's a better work-life balance. And I love that about living here. Definitely. There's things I don't like, but those are the things that I do enjoy a lot, very much so. I believe there was another question under the post, so I definitely want to get to that because it's only fair. Forgive me. Guys, I have too many comments. No, I'm not complaining though. I'm not complaining. I'm so happy to have comments. Okay, I thought there was. Maybe I was mistaken. We will go back. Manny asks, what couple of things about UK culture do you think could successfully be adopted into US culture? Number one, definitely, is universal healthcare. I understand that the NHS is not perfect. I understand that it's severely underfunded and needs some revamping and needs some retooling. And I'm not completely naive. I know that it could definitely be improved. However, the healthcare system in America is so much for profit that people die every single day, either from not having healthcare or being denied the healthcare that they've already paid for. So that is one thing that I think America can definitely take from the UK and implement, and it would be great. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon anyway, because there's way too much stronghold on the government as far as private entities. Excuse me, private entities and private healthcare, especially in private healthcare as far as pharmaceuticals, health insurance, that there's a lot of hospitals that are privatized. It's really a mess. That's one thing. Another thing would be preservation of land, preservation of historical sites, and just having a real genuine appreciation and aptitude to protect all that stuff. So we know where we've been, and it's not commercialized in any way. It's very hard to find a non-commercialized version of that in America. It is a little better where we lived in the Northeast because it was I grew up in New Jersey. We lived in Pennsylvania. Obviously, there's New York. DC is not far. All of those areas were part of the original 13 colonies. So there's tons of historical stuff there that's pretty well preserved, but overall in the country, it's more about development and commercialization. So I think that the UK has a little bit better. It is definitely commercialized, but it's got a better hold on a balance than the US does anyway. I also think there's a little bit better accountability of your government here. There's a lot more interaction with the public here, and it's not as easy to access the public servants in America, right? Your Congress people, even your senators, even your local politicians. There's usually a very big gap between an average person trying to get in touch with, your local legislator or something like that. So I think that's a little bit something that America could take to. That's a lot more complicated because of how the government's set up. It's supposed to be set up so that there's not a lot of federal oversight. And it is very complicated in general, but I do think that would help. Oh, campaign finance laws as well. It would help if the money in politics was a lot less in America, like it is here. I could give you a whole longer list if you want, but I'm sure I'm boring everybody. Diane asks, is there anything you really miss from America? Well, obviously, there's people that I've missed. I think that kind of goes without saying. I miss the summers, the hot, warm summers, the warm summer breezes. I miss that, and it being hot for a long time, not just a couple weeks. I miss that. And it is sunnier where I'm from. Even in the winter, it's just sunnier. It's not as gray and damp. So I do miss that. I miss being, the biggest thing I miss is just being comfortable, knowing what's going on, knowing how to do stuff without having to think about it, not having to second guess my instincts to see if they're actually work in the setting I'm in, and not having to always be on, always be thinking about it, to just kind of be in the motions a little bit more, just because I haven't grown up here. So there's some things that might be my instinct that are not everybody's instincts in the UK or aren't appropriate in the UK. So I miss being able to just go with it and know that it's okay. I kind of miss driving a little bit, but I miss driving in America. I don't really want to drive here in the UK because it scares me and it's intimidating to me and it's nerve-wracking, and I know I'm going to hit something or get into an accident. But I do miss having the nice, wide roads that, are pretty straight and flat and don't have a lot of have plenty of shoulder for you to bear off of if there's a problem. I miss that. I think this is Piper's response to the ghost question. I have an open mind due to some experience, but not really. But I do see it as possible, but I don't really believe. But I've had experiences I can't explain. Okay. Well, yeah, okay. That's fair. Who's popping? Nice, Jesus. Nice. Good name. Oh my God, my brain is not working today. Okay, asked, how does it feel being able to drink tap water? Yeah, that's kind of fun. It is nice to not have to worry about filtering my water all the time or boiling it. Little things like that. It's also nice that I can eat food without knowing there's tons of chemicals in it or extra, sugary, salty, sodium crap into it. So that's all nice. That's all very nice. Camping on to that, Who's Poppin' says, how do the food standards compare? I know a lot of food additives they put in the US is banned in Europe. Yeah, it is and it's something I'm still dealing with actually, but I actually had a little bit of withdrawal for a while when we first got here because I was so used to those chemicals, so used to that taste of those things in my food and the extra sodium and all of that stuff in my food that I didn't like a lot of food here. It was like it just wasn't as satisfying for me, and it didn't hit that like it just didn't hit that level for me. I was very disappointed in it. As time went on, it's gotten a lot better for me. And I've realized that this is how the food's supposed to taste, and I'm not supposed to be tasting all those chemicals all the time, or my body's not supposed to be expecting those chemicals all the time. So I actually like the food a lot better here because I can actually taste it. Don't like it all, obviously, but the food standards here seem to be much better. I feel like the food quality is better. Um, Definitely, like things like expiration date doesn't really mean anything in America because there's so many chemicals and stuff in there. Most of it lasts so much longer than it says on the package anyway. Whereas here, you have to actually pay attention to those dates because they actually mean something. Yeah, it does. It just feels like the food is just fresher and you can taste it better. And I definitely like that part. And the thing is about American food is you can pay for that quality. Like they have the more organic and the pesticide free and all that stuff, but it's a lot more expensive. So a lot of people can't afford it. Because actually groceries in America are much more expensive by far anyway in comparison. So the US has history, albeit all Native American. Well, I mean, the United States at this point is going to be 250 years old next year. So, I mean, there is some history that's not Native American history, obviously, but yeah, I hear what you're saying totally. The other thing is that's a good point that there's no real Native American history protected in America, which is disgusting and absolutely abhorrent, right? Like, and I've been watching some TV shows about like the Western movement from the cities in the Northeast and the Eastern Coast to the West towards California over in the early 20th century. Also, the indoctrination of the Native Americans into the US culture and the Christian culture and stuff. And it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting how a lot of Native Americans were treated during this time frame. And I think that's just like everything else in America. They don't want to admit how crappy they were to people. So they just kind of whitewash it and brush over it. And that's the American. I think that's why there's not a lot of preservation of America and like history in the Americas is because in the United States, I should say, because they don't want to admit, in order to really preserve things, you have to admit where you faltered, right? So you can learn from it and never repeat those mistakes. When I think a lot of American people just don't want to admit it, just don't want to deal with it. And the Native Americans are definitely caught up in that. Even now, there's Native Americans that are treated just as bad as they were, back then. It's really disgusting. I see, Disco. Thank you for the clarification. Yeah, that's the other thing is it depends. There is history. It's not like Lorena is saying here. There is tons of history in Texas, New Mexico. Obviously, there's history in the Midwest. There's lots of history in California. The problem is it's not like here, it's like ingrained, it's built into the culture here, right? I can walk outside and see like a steeple of, from the town that has been here for hundreds of years. It's not going to be torn down and made into something else. It is in America, if they have an opportunity to. I'm not saying every time it is. It's just not as preserved. And Lorena, I hear you. It's difficult to. I couldn't have explained it like that if I wasn't living here. Like even when I was visiting, I noticed it and everything, but it was really hard to articulate. And I kind of almost felt a need to defend America in the same way. It's not, there's just a different vibe about the history here in the UK and in the rest of Europe from what I've seen from the few countries that I've been in Europe. So if you ever get to the US and you get to go to the Midwest or the West, I highly recommend it. It's gorgeous from what I've seen. And everyone I know has said it's gorgeous. Scott says you're an example that the average American is actually a nice person. Thank you. I appreciate that. I watch JJJA, King Boomer, Eclectic Beard, etc. They're brilliant and remind me that Americans are nice people. Yeah, look, most Americans in the average, like I said, the average American, the regular working class, everyday person, they're not jerk-offs. They're not. They're just trying to survive, just like everybody else, every other average person in every other situation. They're trying to survive. They're trying to get their kids to school. They're trying to make sure that they have a safe place to live. They're trying to put food on the table and have some fun and make sure there's a future for them and their children, right? That's what most of us want in life. So it's no different in America. The problem is in America is just such a stronghold there's such a strong class system in America. And there's just about 100 people that have all the power, and they make sure that everyone underneath them are fighting each other on stupid things like culture wars or some rando thing that happens one time, and they make it like it's a national emergency in order to ignore the fact that the people that have power, the 100 or so at the top, are basically robbing them and taking away their rights and taking away everything that they've worked for their entire lives. That's just the way the class system normally works, right? And historically, as I'm sure those who are British can attest to. But the problem is it's extremely prevalent, and there's a lot of laws that protect that ruling class in America, and it continually favors the ruling class in America rather than protecting the average people in America. So it's not that we're assholes, it's more that we are constantly in survival mode. So we're not always thinking straight, we're not always thinking positively, we're not always forward thinking. And we tend to blame our neighbors rather than the people who actually have the power. And sometimes that happens a lot when you're in survival mode, though, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm with you, who's popping. I like that idea too, not having to remortgage my house if my leg broke. Yeah, anytime anyone talks about privatizing healthcare here in the UK, I am vehemently, I will just completely go on debate mode for them and explain to them every single possible reason why. I will definitely defend the NHS, even in all its flaws, till the day I die. Oh my God. Genuine Texas barbecue. So good. So good. Oh, love it. Hello, Stephen. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. Welcome. Manny says, totally agree with you, Manny. I'd be scared to fall ill in the US and face a massive bill, which could make me financially insolvent. Yeah, we had really good insurance, and we're obviously when I was pregnant, obviously that's a well you know well in advance of your disability and everything that's going to happen, everything you're going to need. And we still ended up paying like $5,000 after she was born for bills that kept coming in. And remember, I can't work, right? So for like 6 weeks or so, I was out of work. You get compensated, but you only get compensated like a third of your salary. And there's like, we were already living paycheck to paycheck. We were like, and that was just having a baby. That wasn't any real serious medical. Like, she had no extra like hospitalization or anything like that. It was a good, clean birth. And we still had to pay like $5,000 out of pocket after having her. It's just crazy. They just don't care. Oh, who's popping? Smoked. Oh, when you get a good smoker going, that meat is tender and it is tasty. I think one of the things that I miss about America is the food. Not necessarily all the additives and stuff in it, but there's a lot more variety. I feel like there's a lot more ways to cook things. Sometimes it's not great, but sometimes it's really banging. Disco, thank you so much for the super chat. And Scott, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Disco says, have a cuppa, which I am because I have to. Hyper says, I think I watched a video that I think explained the difference between Americans versus Europeans and that we value different things. I never really thought about it. Americans having different values from Europeans, but what she said made sense. Yeah, that's the thing is the value system. The value system in America is more based on financial success and appearances. Whereas the value system, at least in the UK, is more based on substance and contribution to the community. I hope that explained. That's a basic gist of it. But that's the biggest difference I've found. It's not that like everybody likes nice things. Everyone has to work and all that kind of stuff. It's just more about how you approach those things. And I think in America, you approach it in an individualistic sense, whereas in the UK, you approach it in a, yeah, I have to survive and I have to take care of my family. However, I have to also participate in the community and make sure the community is okay. And it's not my place to rob the community just for my personal gain. It is a laundry list of things, Manny. And you know what? The weirdest part is the more I discover more and more about just me and the struggles that we actually had in America, the more I live here, the more, entrenched in daily life that I become here. I start to realize, oh, in America to be like this, and this might be a plus, but that definitely is not. You start to think about things that the more entrenched you get in cultures. And I find things almost daily. The difference is almost daily. Yeah, the roads here are much smaller, much more narrow, I should say. I haven't visited the Lake District, but I have visited Northern Scotland, and yeah, that was interesting. I remember sitting. I wasn't driving. I remember sitting in the passenger seat at some points, being like this. Just tell me when we're past a load of cars. I still do that sometimes. To be honest, I'm just like, are we good? Did we pass them? Did we hit anything? Especially on some of those country roads. Jesus Christ. Mrs. Lynn, hi, it's been a while. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. How has your daughter settled? She's doing really well. She's thriving in ways I never could have imagined. I'm really, really glad to see it. She's done a lot better than she used to. she's got a circle of friends. She's talking about her future and going to university and stuff like that. So I'm really, really pleased. She's doing well. And that was, one of the big drivers of moving here as well. So she has a good future. So it seems like she's on track. But she's a 14-year-old at the end of the day as well, which is always a challenge. She's a little bit more like me than I like to admit as well, which is also a challenge. I think you've mentioned this to me before, Disco, that Milton Keynes is like a grid like Manhattan is. That might make me feel a little bit more at home. I might have to visit it. Sam K, hello, welcome, good to see you. Thanks for joining. I made the mistakes of buying some Peeps for Easter and never again. Why? For those of you who don't, I think they have them here, but those are like marshmallows with sugar-coated marshmallows in the shape of like chickens and rabbits and shit for Easter. I think you have them here. Piper says, whenever people talk about U.S. not having much history, we're always referring to when the U.S. became a country and then on. We are with the landmass has history. China has way more history. Agree. The problem is Americans don't even acknowledge that there is history prior to the United States becoming a country. So it's difficult to have conversations with anyone. Really, it should be United States history and American history, right? There should be a separation. There just isn't, though. We don't acknowledge it. We don't even acknowledge our own history, to be fair. There are things that they don't talk about in United States history that they don't like to talk about. Are eggs still really expensive in the US? Are they still really bad? I mean, they're not cheap here anymore, but they're definitely I'm just gonna gloss right over your joke, but there's definitely I know they were really expensive in the US. There's nothing that's coming down in the US, I don't think. There's more history than us since they became a country way long ago, but we could probably match some of that if we just talked about our land history, like when people first got here, etc. Yeah, and Piper goes on to say most countries have very long histories if we count the first people getting here. Yeah, I think there's levels to all countries at this point. We're all global at this point, and there's integration everywhere. So I think that there's just a level of what kind of history you're thinking of. You're looking at the history of England, the history of the UK, the history of the British Empire. You're looking, you're going before Anglo-Saxon times, in Roman times, and all. Like, there's a whole bunch of layers, right? You could definitely do the same thing for the US. Obviously, the extent of the layers aren't as long in the US, not just because of the country that's come of it, but also because we didn't even, as Europeans, didn't even know it existed for a long time, right? So it's difficult to go and see all that history as well. But I think there's something to what you're saying. Who's Poppin says, I lived down the street from a barn that had been built in the 1600s, and I get what you're saying. Yeah, someone wrote a comment on, I can't remember which video it was, but someone wrote a comment saying that their pub is older than my country. Their local pub. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That totally checks out. Oh, you guys are funny. Valka says, the difference is our history was recorded on paper where other cultures didn't. That's true. That always helps when you have someone that can document it, right? Oh, Lorena. The husband and I are having barbecue for dinner in a few hours. I had nachos for dinner. They're homemade nachos too, so they're mine. They're pretty good, but I'm sure it's not as good as Texas barbecue. Oh, thank you, who's popping. I appreciate it. I went too far. Piper says, my mother always told me when I was a little kid, when I questioned things about Americans I saw on TV so much, like, why do Americans do this? She always told me because they don't know about the world around them and they don't travel. That's pretty fair, actually. That's pretty fair. You got to remember America, because America is so vast, they don't really leave the continent. If they travel outside the country, it's usually in Mexico or Canada because it's easier, obviously. And it's so expensive. So Americans can get like a different culture experience without leaving the continent, sometimes without even leaving the country, because the East Coast is so different from the Midwest. It's so different from the South. It's so different from the mountains in the West. So there's so much to see within the borders. So a lot of Americans don't even have passports. There was a time as well, when I was really young, there was a time that you could actually go to Mexico and Canada without even having a passport. You just had to have an American driver's license to get over the border. So they just don't know. Most Americans just don't know. It's very true. Oh, brisket and jalapeno sausage. Oh, baked beans. Real baked beans. Good baked beans. US does have a monopoly on ribs. And it's all different kinds. You could have the barbecue sauce. You could have the good rubs. Oh, smoke them. You grill them. Oh, they're great. Ribs are great. Look, I don't think your mom was wrong, though, Piper, to be fair. Even though it is a generalization, but that makes total sense. Mrs. Lynn says, I was watching YouTube today, found out one of the founding fathers of the U.S. was born in Liverpool, moved to America age 7, going to read up more on Robert Morris Jr. That sounds about right. Sounds about right. Cowboy beans. That's a Midwest thing. Oh, smoked pork belly. Oof. That sounds amazing. Oof. Love it. Manny says, as long as you and your family feel safer here in the UK, please stay. After all, your health, well-being, and safety is more important. Thank you. I hope so. So far, it feels a lot better. Let's see how it goes. The world is changing, so that's always a little bit unnerving, especially when you're in the middle of a transition like we are, but I think we'll be okay. Fingers crossed. Milton Keynes is depressing. Drove through it once. Interesting. Lorena says, in regards to living near a barn in the 1600s, that she grew up in a city with a mission that was established in 1682 for the U.S. That's old. It's very old for the U.S., actually. Older than most things in the U.S. Still operating church. That's pretty cool. Have I tried Lemsip for my cold? Yes, Mick. Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us. And I actually had some earlier. I have some more to take, but I'm waiting until I go to sleep. Obviously, I need it. Eggs in Texas are around $4.90. The same dozens cost $2.50 a few months ago. What's the average for eggs for a dozen eggs in the UK right now? £2.45 in Tesco. Is that for a dozen? £3. Yeah, so £2.75 is like the 10 pack. That's like the what I usually buy. Oh, significantly more. Thoughts on Chippy's favorite dish to order? Well, honestly, my favorite dish is just small cod with some chips. Like, I'm pretty basic. I love fish and chips. Just had it a couple days ago, actually. It was banging. I love chippy chips. They're awesome. I don't know what y'all do to them, but they're awesome. Though that's my favorite thing to order from a chippy. I'm basic like that. I know people who order like the sausages and the battered sausages and stuff like that. They love them. I'm not a huge fan of those. I'd rather just have a nice piece of fish. Oh, you're right. TJ hasn't joined us. I hope she's all right. Hello, Bex. Good to see you again. Hi, I've been to the US several times. I'm surprised by the struggle to find vegetable options. Yeah, if you notice, the vegetables are much more expensive as well. Like, I can get a bag of carrots for like £1 here, and a bag of carrots in the US would be like £2. It's like double. I mean, trying to find anything but corn. Corn's always cheap in America. But trying to find like potatoes. I remember like a bag of potatoes here is like £1, maybe £1.50. And in America, they're like £2, $2.50 for like a bag if it's on sale. I just remember those types of things. It's like potatoes. We literally don't have to import them. They're from a state in the United States. Anyway. Refried beans do indeed slap. I like black beans as well, though. A little bit better, I think. This Papa says if I was American, I'd be in Kentucky with backwoods distillery. I would try that. Have you ever had moonshine, Lorena? Just curious. I had moonshine at a party once. This shit was brutal. Lorena says, I grew up in the U.S.-Mexico border. We didn't need passports to cross either way. On the U.S. side, we just had to declare our citizenship by saying American. I think they could probably tell. I don't know, if that's the best thing. Yeah, passports weren't needed until 2009. Yeah, it was a fairly recent thing. I remember because I think when I went to Toronto when I was in my early 20s, and which is in Canada for those of you who don't know. And I remember not needing a passport at that point. Oh, thank you, Scott. I really appreciate that. I hope so too. But I also hope that we can save up enough money for her to go to university and everything. Although it is less expensive here than it is in America, so that we have that in our favor. So £2.75 is like $3.56 in US dollars. Okay. That's about £3, £3 and a yeah, $3.50 for eggs comparison in the UK. It's not that much cheaper actually. Ashes a comment in a community post. Oh, yeah, see, Piper, I was looking for it. I thought someone else asked a question. I'm sorry about that. Thank you for asking it again. I was looking for it and I couldn't find it. What's your favorite food that you had in the UK? Doesn't have to be British. Same question for the US. Favorite food. So my favorite food in the US is pizza. I had pizza when I was in Milan, and it was very, very good. It was very, very good. But and it was better than the pizza I had in America. But my favorite thing was we had a great little local pizzeria near our house. They made their own sauce and everything. It was delicious. They made their own Italian dishes. It was fantastic, that place. So that was my favorite food. For the US. My favorite food in the UK is probably Yorkshire pudding. And I don't know. I've eaten a lot more fish since I've lived here. I think, excuse me. I think that it's just fish dishes. Yorkshire pudding. I really love Yorkshire pudding though. Roasted potatoes are really good too. They don't do them a lot in America either. But one thing in America that we used to have all the time that I do kind of miss, and it's only because I don't have the pan to make it, but meatloaf. It's basically like a hamburger, but it's made into a loaf, and you put like gravy and stuff on it. And you have it with like mashed potatoes and stuff like that. It's delicious. And I used to have it all the time in America because it's inexpensive and filling, but I don't have a loaf pan here, so it's hard. Bex says she's totally allergic to eggs, and they're in everything, including vaccine. Oof. I could not imagine not having eggs. I eat eggs all the time. I love them. That would make me crazy. But I mean, I suppose you get used to it after a while, but wow. See, Lorena is in the US and she agrees that their vegetables are crazy expensive. My daughter was a vegetarian for 8 years and our grocery bills were crazy. She decided to eat fish and chicken when she had to buy her own groceries. Yeah. Yeah, vegetables, I don't know. We have farms in America. I don't know why it's so hard. But actually a lot of our vegetables, right, are imported from Mexico, I think. Because we have a lot of like corn and potato farms. I'm trying to think. There's a lot of wheat farms. Can't think of anything else in America anymore. There used to be farms everywhere. Okay. You can't fathom. I understand. It's because all of the major grocery store chains in America are owned by like 3 or 4 like parent companies, and they set the prices. And we import a lot of our stuff, even though we could make them or make it in our own backyard. We import a lot of it. That's why, basically. I'm sure there's somebody out there who's got a lot more knowledge who can get into the nitty-gritty of it, but that's my understanding based on the few documentaries I've seen and some conversations I've had. Lorena says, I haven't had moonshine, but I've had homemade mezcal. I'm still scarred because I haven't touched it since. Is it mezcal? Mezcal? I think that's what it is. Yeah. I'm kind of scarred from the moonshine, to be fair. I had like a sip of it and I was like, is it like alcohol, like straight, like rubbing alcohol almost? Yep, exactly. Imogen, higher profit demand drives food costs up. Plus, there's very little competition because there's only a few companies that own it, so they can pretty much do whatever they want. Big changes to the benefit system coming. We'll find out Wednesday. Oof. Well, I don't really get a lot of benefits, to be honest with you, so I don't think that affects me personally, but it's, of course, something I will pay attention to because it impacts everyone around me. Oh, pizza is my comfort food, yeah. I had pizza in Naples and it was good, but I do like the variety of pizzas in the US. That's the thing, is you can get like more toppings and stuff in the US, right? And they do a lot more variety of it. But yeah, whew, pizza in America is so different than pizza here in the UK. Yeah, you say that, I can't make it. I burn it every time. Meatloaf, who's popping? Oh, Lorena and meatloaf too, right? Ooh, it's such a good meatloaf. Oh, it's one of those good like winter comfort foods. Piper's is currently enjoying this China buffet place. It's cheap rubbish, but it's delicious. Yeah, I like my Chinese as well. Don't get me wrong. I know I can buy pans for meatloaf disco. I just haven't gotten around to it. Okay, so when we first moved into our flat, we bought like glasses and plates and all that stuff. And over the last year, a lot of the glasses have broken, and I've just recently this past weekend bought like replacement glasses. I'm just lazy. I don't like to spend money until I absolutely have to. Oh, I love Wagamama's Piper, but it's expensive. But yeah, well, that's a family favorite of ours. We like Wagamama's a lot. Love good ramen. Although it's not like real ramen, but it's close enough. Although I heard there's a place not far from us that does like good Japanese food, which we're gonna have to check out. Yeah, I hope not to, Disco. We'll all keep a lookout for you. And please reach out to me if there's anything I do to help you. Oh, there's egg trays in wine. Oh, that would kill me. That would kill me. Scott says, I love a big fry up. Has to have bacon, egg, sausage, black pudding, tatty scone, beans, fried tomato, haggis, toast, and tea. Okay. Your bacon here, not great. But when I have breakfast out, a lot of people have maple streak bacon. I have that. That's pretty good. Eggs, agreed. Sausage, I'm okay. I could take or leave. If I have the bacon, I'm good without the sausage. Can't stand black pudding. I don't know what a tatty scone is, but I think that's close to like a hash brown, which I'm definitely on. Beans, your beans here suck. Fried tomato, love it. Haggis, don't normally have it with our breakfast, but I have had it and it is very good. Toast and tea. I usually have a coffee, but I'm with you on those two. I know a lot of British people that will kill for an English breakfast or a fry up. We used to have before we moved here, whenever we would come to the UK, the first thing we would do on our way home, or like our way back from the airport, was to get a fry up, and I would just literally have like the eggs and the toast. I didn't like a lot of the other things, and you don't get choices as much here. But my partner always wanted a fry up the minute we landed. Tequila is the type of mezcal it's made from the cactus, right? There's complexity and all sorts of good taste. Got it. It's made from my cousin in his garage. Yeah, I wasn't sure if that's what it was. I figured it was along those lines. It's kind of like saying whiskey, right? There's lots of varieties of whiskey. Yeah. Oh, I could imagine. Me and tequila, I become a angry bitch on tequila. I'll tell you that. Have you ever had Indian or Pakistani curry? I have had curry, and I don't like it. I've had a few different varieties. I don't like it very much, to be honest with you. I just haven't been able to find a flavor that sits well with me. It used to make me sick, in all fairness, but it hasn't in my older age now, as my taste buds and everything have changed. But it's not something that makes me sick any longer, like being around it or smelling it or tasting it. I just can't find something satisfying. What's your favorite food you've ever had? Mine is laksa that I had in Singapore. What is that? My favorite food I've had ever. Hmm. Oh, this is probably gonna be like a letdown, but I would say probably my favorite food was when we were in Greece. We had we went on a boat trip for the day. It took us around the island, and they did this basic Greek grill on the boat, and it was basically just pork skewers with this like salad that had this Greek salad that had a potato and tomato and stuff like that in it. And it had pita with it. I think I'm saying that right? Pita with it. And then they served watermelon. And it was really, really basic, but it was, I don't know, the flavor was delicious of the meat. It was absolutely delicious. I wanted lots and lots more. It was so good. It could have been the setting and all of that kind of stuff, but It was just delicious. I just really enjoyed it. And that was probably the best like meal I've ever had in my life. But I've had a lot of really good foods. I've had uh jambalaya from New Orleans, which is incredible. I mean, I've had lobster in Boston, lobster bisque in Boston, which is fantastic. I've had Texas barbecue. I've had um, New York pizza. I mean, I've been lucky to have a lot of different things. So I don't know if I can narrow it down, but that was one of my favorite, most memorable meals ever. And it was really simple, but it was just absolutely delicious. Mick says the Labour Party are hitting the elderly and the disabled, and they're supposed to be the workers' party. Their policies are straight out of the Tories' playbook. Oh, times are hard right now. Thank you, Lorena. See, Lorena's Mexican, so she knows that beans are important and they're good, and that UK beans are sad. I don't like them at all. The sauce you all have in your baked beans are gross. I would imagine that would be a good place. So, Singapore is fantastic, I've heard, and I would really, really love to go there. Did you get to spend any time there, or were you just like a layover? Curious. Beck says, I think there's a different outlook on meals between the US and the UK. Genuinely, haven't been to a Mickey D's, etc. for about 12 years, and last takeaway about 2. US bacon is like a plank of US bacon has a lot of fat on it. So I can understand that. This is hard for me to find here. We had turkey bacon. I ate turkey bacon a lot because I didn't really like the US bacon either because of all the fat that's on it. But we have turkey bacon that is in streaks, like regular bacon in America. Whereas here you have them in like rashers, where it's like that. And it tastes the same, it tastes similar, but excuse me, it's not quite the same. So I hear what you're saying about American bacon. And I remember my mom always used to make it. She was big on Sunday brunch. She used to make it, and it was really, really like overcooked and crispy because that's how she liked it. And so I never liked it there either. You guys are big on the curry here. It is very hard to find Mexican food here, Lorena. You're right. I have found that the best thing is that we make Mexican food on our own. So we have tacos all the time on our own. And we, like I said, I do my nachos by myself. Yeah, it's not as prevalent here, Mexican food at all. A good Tex-Mex food. We had a really good Mexican restaurant when we lived in Pennsylvania as well. Slovakia, thank you. Yes, Slovakia. That was good. All the food in Greece was really good. I don't remember having anything I didn't like in Greece, which I was surprised at because I'm kind of picky about stuff like that. But yeah. So laksa is a popular spicy noodle soup in Southeast Asia featuring thick rice noodles with rich broth, toppings like chicken and prawns. Yep, that sounds like it'd be up my alley. Sounds delicious. Love to try it. Coconut curry based or tamarind based. Okay, could try it. Scott's gonna fall out with me. Our bacon is wrong. I've just contacted our immigration department. It's not that it's wrong. It just tastes really funny. I mean, I know you have smoked and unsmoked, and it's back bacon, and there's different kinds, but I don't like it. It's really salty. I don't like it. Yeah, that exactly, Beck. So you have to buy it. You can buy the stuff here and make it yourself. That's the best way to go, especially if you're if you're somebody that like enjoys the authentic flavor. US bacon over UK bacon. Thank you. It was a 6-hour layover, but I've been to Singapore before with my family. It was beautiful, loved it, but I was uncomfortable seeing all alive crabs and small takes waiting. Oh, we had that in America as well. It was more like lobsters. You would like choose your own lobster if you went to the restaurant, which one you would like, and they would take it out of the tank and prepare it for you so it was fresh. I always felt a little bit weird about that too. It was like, I remember I went to a place once and I had to pick a lobster and I was like, just pick one. I don't care. Just pick one. I can't pick it out myself. It's too hard. I did eat it though, and it was delicious, in all fairness. Pain in the ass though. You had to take it all of the freaking shell and I don't even know if it's worth it. Like the legs, you get like that much meat out of it, and it takes a long time to crack all the shell open and stuff. The UK doesn't have food full of corn syrup. Very true. That was definitely one of the withdrawals I went through when I first got here. Yes, the UK bacon is salty. Thank you, Mojin. Danish bacon. I'll have to see if that works. Get crispy? You like bacon crispy, Piper? I guess. I just don't like the bacon here, in all fairness. Oh. Anyways, on that note, I'm going to go before immigration gets to my door. Scott, thank you very much. Thank you all for joining. That was a really good stream. We haven't had like a just straight one-on-one stream like that in a long time. And I think I'm going to do that a little bit more often. I do miss that. In all fairness, I got the idea because I was looking at some old streams where we just had some back and forth like this. And I was like, we haven't done it in a while. So you guys let me know in the comments if you want to keep doing more like stuff like this. We'll mix it up, of course. But yeah, I'd love to do this kind of stuff again. But you guys let me know your thoughts. I hope you guys have an amazing week. Don't forget to check out the hicksondiaries.com, our shop. We have lots of stuff for sale there. And also sign up for our newsletter if you can. And yeah, consider joining the channel if you can. Help us raise money for the Royal British Legion. We are doing really well and trying to hit our goal for £1,000 for 2025. But of course, every pound helps. So, if you can join, £1 of your membership fee goes directly to the fundraiser. Also, if you just want to make a one-time donation towards that fundraiser, there is a link in at hicksondiaries.com where you can do a direct donation as well. It goes in the Hickson Diaries name, but it's directly to the Royal British Legion. So that would be awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us, especially all of our newcomers. Welcome. And everyone that came back that we haven't seen for a long time. It's good to talk to you all again. Everybody stay safe and have a great rest of your week. And I will talk to you soon. Love you all. Thank you for everything. Take care of yourselves. Bye.